When life throws uncertainty at you, when the pressure builds and emotions start to boil, the instinct for many is to react impulsively, to panic, to scramble, to do something just to feel like they're in control. But that's where most people go wrong, because panic doesn't come from the situation, it comes from being unprepared for it. It's the voice of fear, not reason, and fear, when left unchecked, will convince you that reaction is the same as progress. It's not. Real progress is intentional, it's thoughtful, it's strategic. That's why in every situation, especially when things feel like they're falling apart, you must learn to choose planning over panic. Panic is loud, it makes you feel like you have to act now, or everything will slip through your fingers, but strategy is calm. It tells you to slow down, breathe, and see clearly. The world moves fast, yes, but nothing good comes from rushing without direction. A plan gives you that direction. It gives your energy focus. Panic, on the other hand, scatters it everywhere. The people who rise in life aren't the ones who never feel pressure. They're the ones who have learned how to channel pressure into poise. They see chaos and choose to calculate. They don't let their environment dictate their response. They create space between what they feel and what they do. That space is where wisdom lives. That space is where strategy begins. Look at any successful journey, any breakthrough, any comeback, and behind it is someone who didn't let the moment define them. They defined the moment because they had a plan. Planning is not about predicting every twist and turn. It's about preparing your mind to handle whatever comes your way with intention. When you have a plan, you know your purpose, and when you know your purpose, no situation can throw you off center for long. Planning doesn't make the pressure go away, it makes it manageable, it turns emotion into action, it transforms fear into fuel, it allows you to say, this is what's happening, but this is how I'm going to respond, and that shift from reacting to responding is everything. Think about the difference between a person who prepares for a storm and someone who ignores the signs. One fortifies their home, gathers supplies, stays calm. The other panics, runs, and hopes for the best. Same storm, different outcomes. The difference, planning. Planning gives you options. Panic takes them away. But here's the truth. Planning takes discipline. It takes the maturity to sit with discomfort, to ask yourself hard questions, to play the long game. Panic is easier. It's quick. It gives you the illusion of control, but illusion won't carry you through adversity. Only intention will. When you make planning a habit, you build resilience. You become someone who doesn't crumble under pressure, but thrives in it. You start to see setbacks as part of the process, not the end of it. You trust yourself more, and when you trust yourself, you stop relying on luck or emotion to lead you. You begin to move differently. You stop rushing decisions just to relieve anxiety. You stop over-explaining your moves to people who aren't even on your level. You start honoring your time, your vision, your value, because planning gives you ownership over your life. Even in moments of failure, a planner doesn't spiral. They analyze, they learn, they adjust. Panic makes you think that mistakes are the end. Planning reminds you that mistakes are just feedback, and that feedback becomes part of a better plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be grounded enough to pause, observe, and choose your next step with clarity. That's power. That's what separates those who merely survive from those who lead. It's not about being cold or robotic. It's about being steady. It's about valuing your future enough to not let every wave of emotion pull you off course. So when the pressure rises, when fear creeps in, and everything in you wants to rush, to react, to scream, don't. Take a moment, take a breath, and plan, because the most powerful person in the room is never the loudest. It's the one with a plan. In a world that constantly demands your attention, your reactions, your validation, and your energy, one of the most powerful things you can do is detach. Not because you don't care, but because you do. You care enough about your peace, your progress, and your potential to not let everything pull you into emotional chaos. Detachment is not about coldness. It's about clarity. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows who they are and refuses to be controlled by external noise. To dominate, you don't need to overpower people or situations. you need to master yourself. And that starts with learning how to detach. Detachment gives you perspective. It helps you see the game while others are stuck playing it. When you're emotionally entangled in every reaction, every opinion, every temporary high or low, you lose sight of the bigger picture. You get pulled into battles that don't serve your mission, but when you detach, you don't just protect your energy, you multiply it, you redirect it, you use it to build, to grow, to rise. Most people are so busy reacting that they forget to choose. They let other people's moods determine their day. They let one rejection derail their confidence. They take everything personally. But when you detach, you create a boundary, not just around you, but within you. You stop letting everything inside. You start filtering what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And that's how you stay in control, even in chaos. There's a dangerous lie in the world that tells you passion has to mean attachment. That if you're not emotional about something, you're not invested. But the truth is, the most effective people are deeply passionate, but they're emotionally neutral. They don't need validation to know their worth. They don't crumble when things don't go their way, because they're not driven by ego, they're driven by mission. Detachment keeps your mission clean, free from emotional clutter. Detachment also helps you navigate criticism. When you're attached to being liked, you become afraid to be bold. You start playing small, watering yourself down just to be accepted. But when you detach from that need, you get your power back. You realize not everyone needs to understand you. Not everyone needs to agree with your moves. You're not here for applause. You're here to evolve, and that evolution requires decisions that won't always make sense to others. That's okay. You're not building for them. You're building for the vision only you can see, to dominate in any space, whether it's business, art, leadership, or life. You need a level of mental clarity that can't exist if you're constantly caught in emotional traffic. You can't be strategic if you're always in reaction mode. Detachment allows you to respond, not react. It gives you the pause, and in that pause is power. The power to make decisions based on logic, on long-term value, not short-term relief. Sometimes detachment means walking away, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know where your energy is wasted. Sometimes it means saying no without guilt. Sometimes it means letting people misunderstand you without trying to explain yourself. Because your worth is not up for debate. It's already decided. You're not here to be emotionally available for everyone's chaos. You're here to lead yourself, and from that leadership, everything else will align. Even in relationships, detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means love without control, support without obsession, presence without possession. It's knowing that you can care deeply, but still protect your peace. You can give without draining. You can be all in without losing yourself. The world rewards those who move with calm intention, and calm only comes when you're no longer held hostage by your emotions. When you can sit with discomfort without rushing to fix it, when you can observe your feelings without letting them dictate your actions, that's the core of self-mastery. That's how you move through life with grace, with strength, with unwavering focus. So no, detachment isn't weakness. It's one of the highest forms of power. It's not about checking out. It's about checking in with yourself so thoroughly that nothing external can shake you. When you detach, you create space. And in that space you rise, you lead, you dominate, not through force but through unshakable inner peace. There is a quiet strength in those who come prepared. You can see it in the way they walk into a room, not with arrogance but with certainty. You can hear it in their voice, measured calm, rooted in something deeper than confidence. That strength doesn't come from luck. It comes from intention, from discipline, from time spent behind the scenes when no one was watching, choosing progress over comfort. Because preparation isn't just about being ready, it's about becoming undeniable. When you prepare, you're not just learning skills, you're building trust with yourself. Every hour you invest, every plan you make, every scenario you walk through in your mind, you're telling yourself, I've got this, I'm ready. And that readiness is what separates those who perform under pressure from those who fold. Talent might open the door, but preparation keeps it open. It's the reason some people seize the moment while others freeze. When you've done the work, you don't have to fake confidence. It's already in your body. In your instincts, you don't second guess yourself because you've already run the play 100 times in your head. Preparation is power because it gives you control in a world full of uncertainty. You can't predict everything, but you can prepare for how you'll respond. That's what gives you the edge. While others panic, you stay grounded. While others are caught off guard, you adapt. You're not relying on adrenaline. You're relying on systems, habits, and awareness. That's what real power looks like. Quiet, calm, and consistent. There's a common myth that the most successful people are the most gifted. But the truth is, they're the most prepared. They don't show up hoping things will go well. They show up knowing they've already done the work to make it go well. They've rehearsed. They've studied. They've visualized. So when the spotlight hits, they don't shrink. They shine. Because they've earned that moment long before it arrived. Preparation isn't glamorous. It's waking up early to practice when no one's clapping. It's choosing to read when you'd rather scroll. It's asking questions, seeking feedback, staying curious when it would be easier to coast. It's showing up again and again, refining your craft, not because you're chasing perfection, but because you respect the opportunity to show up as your best. It also protects you from self-doubt. So much of fear comes from feeling unready. But when you've prepared, you don't fear the test. You look forward to it. You welcome challenges because they become a chance to showcase what you've built. You stop looking at others with envy because you know how much work goes into mastery, and you're putting in that work yourself. Preparation also builds resilience. When you've prepared, failure doesn't break you. It teaches you, because your identity isn't built on a single outcome, but on consistent effort. When something doesn't go as planned, you don't crumble. You reassess, you learn, you try again smarter. That mindset of always being ready to refine and rise is the foundation of long-term success. People often talk about seizing the moment, but the truth is you don't seize the moment. The moment reveals who was already ready. You won't always get a second chance to prove yourself. Sometimes you only get one shot, and in those moments, preparation is what shows up for you when nerves try to take over. It's your armor, it's your weapon. It's the reason you can stay composed while others fall apart. But perhaps the most powerful part of preparation is that it puts your future in your hands. You don't sit around waiting for the perfect conditions. You create them. You don't need to be the loudest in the room, because your results will speak louder than anything you say. Preparation gives you freedom. The freedom to move boldly, to take risks, to trust that even if you don't know everything, you know enough to begin. So while others are hoping things will work out, you're making sure they do. While they're reacting, you're executing. That's what gives you the edge. That's what makes you powerful. Because when the world gets unpredictable, and it always does, prepared people don't just survive. They lead, they rise, they win. Life is a game, and the way you play it determines everything. Some people move like chess pieces, reacting to every external force, controlled by circumstances, opinions, and emotions. They go where they're pushed, not where they choose. But then there are others, the ones who think ahead, who see the bigger picture, who move with intention. They are the chess players. They don't wait for permission, and they don't live on autopilot. They make the moves that change the game. To be the chess player, you have to stop living reactively. You have to stop being driven by every problem, every trigger, every setback. Pieces don't have power. They're moved, they're sacrificed. They follow the path laid out for them by someone else's strategy. But the player controls the board. The player sees patterns, sees opportunities, and decides what to do next, not based on emotion, but on vision. That's the difference between drifting and leading. You don't need to be the most talented or the most experienced to play the game. You just need to step into the mindset that says, I'm not here to be moved, I'm here to move. Being the chess player means playing long-term. Pieces focus on the next step. The player focuses on the next 10. You don't just respond to what's in front of you. You anticipate what's coming. You start to see how today's decisions create tomorrow's life. You look at people differently. You look at time differently. You stop getting caught up in what's loud and start focusing on what's lasting. You also begin to realize that being strategic doesn't mean being cold, it means being clear. It means understanding what you want and not letting distractions steer you off course. Pieces chase validation, attention, comfort. The player chases impact, purpose, progress. Every move is intentional. Every action has a reason behind it, even the pauses, even the sacrifices. Sometimes being the player means letting go of certain things, not because you're weak, but because you understand value. You understand that not everything deserves your energy, your explanation, or your presence. Pieces feel the need to react to everything. The player chooses silence or distance or action, whichever serves the mission. That's not ego, that's control. Control doesn't mean micromanaging life. It means owning your response. Owning your power, it's recognizing that no matter what happens around you, you still choose how to move. That's where freedom lives, not in avoiding challenges, but in knowing you can face them without losing your center. That's what chess players do. They stay calm in pressure, they calculate, they don't panic, they adapt. To shift from being a piece to being the player, you have to stop outsourcing your life. Stop letting other people's opinions shape your identity. Stop letting temporary emotions make permanent decisions. Stop allowing fear to become your guide. Fear doesn't know strategy. It only knows survival. But you're not here just to survive. You're here to evolve, to lead, to move the board in your favor. It takes self-awareness. You have to know who you are, what you want, and what you stand for. Pieces get lost in the game because they don't know their position. The player studies the board, studies themselves, and then moves with confidence. Even when things don't go perfectly, they don't fall apart. They recalculate. They find another angle. The game isn't over until the player says it is. You have to be bold. Strategic doesn't mean playing it safe. It means being smart about risk, knowing when to strike, knowing when to wait, knowing which opportunities align with your vision and which ones are distractions in disguise. Pieces get excited by noise. The player looks for alignment, for leverage, for timing in every area of life. Your career, your relationships, your growth. You have a choice. You can be a piece, moving in response to whatever comes your way. Or you can be the player, crafting your own path, shaping your own story, one move at a time, one choice at a time. Power doesn't come from controlling everything. It comes from controlling yourself. It comes from having a plan, adjusting when necessary, and still pushing forward. That's how you win. That's how you lead. That's how you become more than just a participant in your life. You become the strategist, the architect, the master of your own game. There will be days when you don't feel like doing anything. Days when your motivation is nowhere to be found, when your energy is low, and your mind whispers all the excuses that sound almost convincing. That's normal, everyone feels it, but the difference between those who achieve greatness and those who stay stuck isn't how often they feel motivated. It's how often they show up anyway, because discipline, not mood, is what builds momentum. Discipline is what builds results. It's what keeps you moving forward when everything inside you wants to sit down and wait for the perfect moment. But the perfect moment rarely comes. The work gets done when you show up without needing to feel ready. Discipline is a choice, not a feeling. Mood is unpredictable. It changes based on sleep, stress, weather, conversations, and doubts. But discipline is stable. It's the part of you that honors your goals no matter what your mood is doing. It's the part of you that says, this is what I committed to, and I'm going to follow through, even when the excitement is gone. Because success isn't about what you do when you feel amazing. It's about what you do when you don't. We live in a culture that tells us to listen to our feelings, to move only when we're inspired, to wait until it feels right. But if you always wait until it feels right, you'll wait forever. Growth doesn't always feel good. Change is uncomfortable. Building something meaningful takes consistency, and consistency requires discipline. Discipline is the muscle you build by doing what needs to be done over and over, until it becomes a part of who you are. Mood is temporary. It can shift in minutes, but discipline creates habits, and habits shape your identity. Every time you show up for yourself, Even when you don't feel like it, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who follows through. That belief becomes powerful. It becomes a foundation. It becomes something you can lean on during the days when your mood betrays you. Some people wait for motivation to strike like lightning, but motivation is unreliable. Discipline is renewable. You create it, you build it, you train it like a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. That's what gives you the edge, not talent, not energy, not inspiration, but your ability to act regardless of how you feel. There's a quiet pride that comes from showing up when it's hard, from doing the workout when you're tired, from writing the page when you feel blocked, from keeping your promises when no one's watching. Those are the moments that build character. Those are the moments that separate you from the average, because anyone can be consistent when it's easy, but it takes real discipline to be consistent when it's not. You have to train yourself to lead with your goals, not your emotions. Your mood might tell you to skip today. Your goals won't. Your mood might say, just this once, it's okay to quit. Your goals will remind you why you started. Your mood doesn't care about your future, but your discipline does. It's the inner coach that pushes you past excuses, the voice that says, do it anyway. Discipline doesn't mean being harsh with yourself. It means being loyal to your vision. It means recognizing that your future deserves more than your comfort zone. It means making decisions today that your future self will thank you for, and over time, it becomes who you are. It becomes automatic. What once felt hard becomes your new normal, and that's how transformation happens. There will be days when discipline is the only thing that carries you through, days when you're tired, uncertain, uninspired. That's when it matters most. That's when you earn your breakthroughs. Discipline doesn't always feel good in the moment, but it always feels good in the results. And the truth is, the most successful people aren't the most motivated, they're the most disciplined. So when your mood tries to negotiate, when it whispers distractions and excuses, you need to be stronger. You need to decide that how you feel in the moment doesn't get to decide your future. You do. Every step taken with discipline brings you closer to the life you're building. Every action done without waiting for the perfect mood is a vote for the person you're becoming. That's how you move forward. Not when it's convenient, not when it's easy, but always with discipline. In a world addicted to noise, silence is often misunderstood. People equate silence with weakness, passivity, or uncertainty, when in truth, silence is one of the most powerful strategic tools you can use. In a time where everyone is racing to speak first, to react fast, to prove their point loudly, choosing silence is not about avoiding the moment. It's about owning it. It's about knowing that not every thought deserves to be spoken, not every challenge needs a reaction, and not every move needs to be announced. Because sometimes the strongest play is to say nothing at all. Silence is not emptiness. It's control, it's space, it's intention. It's the quiet that allows you to hear beyond the noise, to think before reacting, to assess the terrain before taking the next step. Most people respond out of habit, emotion, or ego, but those who understand the power of silence don't move impulsively. They calculate, they observe, they listen, and in doing so, they gain information that others miss. They see people's real motives, they notice the cracks between the words. Silence gives them the upper hand, not because they know everything, but because they're not in a rush to prove that they do. In conversations, silence can make people uncomfortable, but that's where its strength lies. When you're not quick to fill the space, you make others reveal more. You control the tempo. You create room for truth to surface. You don't need to dominate with volume. You dominate with presence, and presence is often felt the strongest in silence. A calm, collected silence can say far more than forced words ever could. Silence is strategy because it keeps your energy focused. Talking excessively can dilute your power. Constantly sharing your ideas, your plans, your emotions exposes you to unnecessary influence and judgment. But when you keep your moves quiet, you give yourself the freedom to work without pressure, to evolve without scrutiny. You protect your momentum. You avoid the trap of performance, of needing to prove anything before it's real. There is something sacred about building in silence, about letting results do the speaking instead of opinions. Strategic silence also buys you time, time to think, to breathe, to find clarity. So many mistakes are made because people respond too quickly without considering the long-term impact. They speak from emotion, not from strategy, but silence interrupts that cycle. It gives you distance from the chaos. It allows you to pause and ask, what matters here? What's worth engaging in? What is noise? And what is signal? And often, that pause is enough to turn what could have been a conflict into an opportunity. There is also power in not explaining yourself, not because you're arrogant, but because you know that your truth doesn't need constant defense. People will misunderstand you, they will question your choices, but you don't need to meet every challenge with an explanation. Sometimes, silence is your strongest boundary. It communicates that you value your peace more than someone else's need to be right. It says, I'm not here to argue, I'm here to build. Silence protects your energy. It allows you to conserve your emotional bandwidth for what actually matters. The more you engage in every opinion, every argument, every distraction, the more drained and reactive you become. But when you learn to be selective with your voice, when you understand that silence is not inaction but intentional restraint, you gain leverage. You gain power over yourself, and that is the foundation of all strategy, self-mastery. In leadership, in relationships, in conflict, silence can shift dynamics. It commands attention, it forces others to listen differently, it allows you to recalibrate before you engage. Silence doesn't mean you don't care, it means you're choosing your battles. It means you're thinking long-term, it means you're grounded enough not to be moved by every provocation. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You don't need to always speak to be respected. When your silence is intentional, it becomes a signal. It becomes a posture of strength. It says you're not operating from ego. You're operating from vision. You don't just want to win the moment. You want to win the war. And that kind of victory requires patience, discipline, and a deep understanding that not all moves are made on the board. Some are made in the pause before it. So while others chase attention, you stay focused. While they talk, you listen. While they react, you prepare. That's the strategy. That's the power. And sometimes that begins with nothing more than silence. Pain is inevitable. So is anger, frustration, rejection, and every other emotion that comes with fighting for something bigger than yourself. But what defines you is not the fire you face. It's what you do with it. You can let it burn you out, or you can turn it into fuel. You can collapse under pressure, or you can use that pressure to rise. The choice is always yours, and those who learn how to channel their fire instead of being consumed by it become unstoppable. Everyone has a moment when things fall apart, the plan doesn't work, the door closes, the people you trusted disappoint you, and in that moment the fire shows up. It shows up as rage, as grief, as helplessness. Most people try to run from it. They numb it, avoid it, blame someone else. But the fire you try to escape is the same fire that can push you further than you've ever gone, if you learn how to use it. Pain doesn't have to paralyze you, it can sharpen you. Anger doesn't have to blind you, it can drive you. That emotion you're feeling isn't weakness, it's energy, and energy can be directed. Turning fire into fuel means you stop seeing struggle as the enemy. You start seeing it as your edge. The very thing meant to break you can build the strongest parts of you. Your focus, your grit, your clarity. Fire has a way of burning away what doesn't matter. It strips down the noise, the distractions, the comfort. And in that heat, you find out what you're really made of. You find out how bad you want it. You find out if you're committed to growth or just committed to convenience. You have to stop waiting for perfect conditions to get to work. If you're angry, use it. If you're hurt, use it. Let it fuel your discipline. Let it fuel your vision. Let it remind you why you started. People who succeed at the highest level aren't immune to setbacks. They just don't let their emotions sit idle. They take that fire and pour it into their goals, into their training, into their craft, into building something that speaks louder than their pain ever could. Your story doesn't have to be defined by what happened to you. It can be defined by how you responded. Every scar can be a symbol of survival. Every disappointment can teach you how to refine your strategy. You just have to decide that you're not going to let pain keep you stuck. You're going to let it push you forward. That's how resilience is built, not by avoiding the fire, but by walking through it and learning how to harness it. You will be underestimated, you will be misunderstood, you will be told it's not possible. Let that fuel you. Let every doubt become another reason to rise. Let every no become a reason to find another